will no doubt hear your conservative friends and coworkers comparing President Obama's response to the Malaysian Airlines Flight 17, MH17, how he reacted upon learning of the plane being shot down, upon it crashing in Ukraine, to what happened back in the 80s when Ronald Reagan, Saint Reagan, was president. When the Soviet Union shot down the Korean Air Flight 007, KAL007. And they're comparing the two, saying how Saint Ronald Reagan, he's a true leader because upon hearing about this, the very minute he heard about this, he canceled all of his plans, unlike Obama, who went to fundraisers that evening. He canceled the evening he heard about MH17. He canceled all of his plans upon hearing KAL007, rushed to the White House, and gave a heartfelt statement condemning these acts of terror. In fact, one such person, Joe Scarborough, went at it with his co-host, Mika Brzezinski, on Morning Joe this morning, to defend the honor of Reagan and to defend the truth of what Reagan did. Let's listen to that now.
There are these parallels being made to Ronald Reagan and how he responded to the Korean airliner. And it took him 4 days to go back and make the strong statements that he made, just for some perspective.
He immediately canceled his vacation.
He didn't, actually.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't immediately cancel it.
Yes, he did. He immediately did. He immediately went back to the White House. He immediately canceled fundraising events and campaign events. Yes, he did. And no, he did. You can go back and look. Ronald Reagan didn't keep campaigning. He stopped when the Korean airliner went down. What's wrong with this picture when you have an administration, Mika, that says we don't do theater? When he's asked to go down and survey humanitarian crisis by the Hispanic caucus and by a Democratic senator, and then he shoots pool, and then he does theater of drinking beer, and then there's a downed airliner and they don't do theater, and he's doing campaign events and fundraising events, and he's eating hamburgers and French fries.
President Obama was eating hamburgers and French fries upon hearing about MH. Did you know Ronald Reagan fasted for 40 days and nights after KAL007? Oh, wait, he didn't do that. I'm sorry. Unbelievable. And if you're wondering where this comes from, and I'll get to what actually Ronald Reagan did upon hearing about KAL007, who these conservatives out there are. One such conservative, Eric Erickson, wrote for Red State that President Obama spoke for 38 or so seconds yesterday after learning about the Malaysian airline flight that was shot down over Ukraine. I'd like to add, President Obama spoke literally hours after the news first broke. And that was because he was already going to speak in Delaware, and he felt like he needed to make a statement about this because it was what's in the news. He didn't prepare for this. This wasn't a conference or a speech specifically for this. There was literally no official word out about what actually happened. So he took 38 seconds from the top of his speech to mention it. And then Eric Erickson goes into how Ronald Reagan responded to the flight and how he addressed the nation. And how Ronald and Nancy had gone out to their ranch on August 26th for vacation and intended to stay at least through September 4th. But when they found out about KAL007, he canceled all of his events and headed back to the White House on the morning of September 2nd. Oh no, he had to cut his vacation short by 2 days, Michael. Oh no. Well, if you're wondering what Ronald Reagan really did, and Eric Erickson went to Twitter to again reiterate, President Reagan was on vacation in California when KAL007 was shot down. He immediately canceled all of his events and flew back to Washington. Well, Eric Erickson, a little bit of thing called research would have debunked that right away. The night KAL007 disappeared, This is what Ronald Reagan decided to do, and this is from reports directly from people in his administration at the time, in 1983. Ronald Reagan heard the flight disappeared and went to bed for the night.
Well, Nancy, something really terrible happened, but let's not let that interfere with our vacation.
It's
I'm
nap
gonna
time.
I need to get my usual 11 hours.
As news,
Was there a laser beam that was used to take that plane down? Where are my jelly beans?
as news was starting to break about, and all the details were starting to come out, saying this flight was shot down, and the Soviet Union shot it down. His administration decided not to disturb him. They didn't wake him up. He slept through all this. And when he finally woke up, and he was finally informed of all the events that happened and all the discoveries that occurred, it was a full, nearly 20 hours after the plane had crashed. So this wasn't immediate. 20 hours. That's a full day almost.
Trust me, in a couple of decades, there'll be a black guy elected president, and he will give a moderate statement after the not knowing all of the facts of a plane crash over Eastern Europe. And when that happens, they'll go back and say I immediately returned to office, even though I didn't. I'm a psychic.
And I'll give Eric Erickson this.
Now, that said, I would like some jelly beans now, and I would like to take another nap.
And to give Eric Erickson a little bit of credit here. But you know what? Screw that, because he still went ahead and wrote this piece attacking Obama, saying Reagan was perfect. And screw Joe Scarborough for even though he apologized for saying after the fact, he said this on air, and then he goes on Twitter after, where I'm sure the majority of his viewers.
Little tweet apology.
Yeah, he tweeted an apology to, I'm sure, a large number less than those who watched The Morning Joe. For your information, KAL007 crashed on September 1st, 1983. Reagan didn't address the nation to condemn the shooting until September 5th, a full 4 days after.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Trust me, this black guy that gets elected president, he's never going to hear the end of it.
Oh, and another funny thing.
How do you know that that's going to happen, Mr. President? I just do. Stop asking me questions. I'm
But I-
going to eat some rock candy and take another nap now.
Another funny thing coming from Eric Erickson about this. While President Reagan was dealing with the KAL007 situation, he was also having to deal with the situation in Lebanon and Israel. Like there isn't other situations going on right now that President Obama is dealing with, as if it isn't both of their jobs to deal with multiple world events, being the President of the United States. But pity poor Ronald Reagan. He had to wake up from his slumber, and he had to cut his vacation short by 2 days, which was just on his fucking ranch.
I have a lot on my plate right now. I'm trying to organize a horseback ride later. I'm trying to avoid seeing my useless children who always come here to bother me when I'm on vacation. And then I have a talk with Nancy's astrologer. So I really need all of my 11 to 12 hours of sleep.
You just gotta watch that video we'll put it up in the YouTube of Joe Scarborough defending Ronald Reagan. He gets so angry. His face. You should see the look on his face as Mika Brzezinski tries to tell him that he is wrong and that Ronald Reagan did not respond to KAL007 immediately. He did not cancel his events and his vacation immediately. You have this. No! How dare you! No! Don't you dare sully the name of Saint Ronald Reagan. Give me a break.